Rhys Elliott, Head of Market Analysis at Alinea Analytics. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Mishka. It's been a long time coming, right?
Yes, it is. I don't know if it has been a long time coming. We had phone call, and it was so much fun just talking to you. And I was like, we should just record a podcast.
Yeah, let's just do it. I mean, we've been chatting on and off for the past few years, but yeah, after that initial call, we were just talking so much and for so long. Maybe got a little bit too spicy in sections, but we'll see if it goes that way right now as well for the listeners.
That's all it takes to get on the show. Just have a fun call with me, and that's it.
Nice, you hear that, audience? Just try and be as fun as you can on a call with Mishka. You're just gonna get the most cringe calls now, Mishka. You've just really.
I do get weird calls. I had a call I think 2 days ago. Somebody called me, not somebody, a person I very well know. I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "So, Oura Ring or Apple Watch or Garmin, what would you recommend?" It's because I posted on LinkedIn about how engagement drops with these fitness trackers. Mm-hmm. And we ended up having a call, and he's like, "Okay, what happens with this? What happened? Oh, I don't want to do this." So I was consulting him on fitness trackers, which is a new expansion of my business. But enough about that and more about you. Rhys, tell a little bit about your history, apart from you being Welsh.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I am very Welsh, but I live in the Netherlands. Yeah, but funny name, funny accent, that's the Welshness. I've been covering games for about a decade now. But before that, I worked across research, web development, and marketing. I think we first crossed paths, Mishka, when I was at New Zoo. Mm-hmm. So I started there back in 2018, did market analysis, marketing, consulting. I think that's probably where a lot of people know me from. So basically between 2018 and 2024, I pretty much wrote or edited every piece of content that New Zoo did. So yeah, I did that till 2024. And then for about a year after that, I was the lead games analyst at Media, doing some freelance stuff on the side as well. And now, Alinea's head of market analysis, doing content insights, account management. They're a pretty new company in the game space. I only found out about them a few months ago on LinkedIn. But the CTO, Victor, sent me a trial for the platform, which any game studio can get by reaching out, by the way. Little plug, gotta do it.
Link in the description.
Exactly. You hit the bell or whatever they say for YouTube. But yeah, they gave me a free trial of the platform, and I have a bunch of freelance clients, so I have access to other data sources and actuals and things like that. So I did 111 benchmarks or something, and Alinea was the closest, and so I had an opportunity to join. So I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I mean, obviously I'm pretty biased, but I'm not bullshitting. The estimates are damn good.
Yeah, you've been around the block, and you worked with different analytics platforms. And this is, again, we're talking about PC console, and you found Alinea most accurate, and you were like, "Yep, I'm in."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Accuracy is pretty important with data analytics. I've noticed that.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
It's top high up.
Crucial. You could say crucial.
Yeah. Well, I have 5 topics for you, and the way I was thinking we could go is I'm gonna you pick where you want to go, and then there's 4 left, and then there's 3 left, and there's 2 left, and there's 1 left.
All right.
So the topics are fat cats versus hungry cats, very accomplished, maybe less hungry devs versus those up and comers. Who should you put your money on? Then we have a topic of GaaS, a zero-sum game, so games as a service. And then topic number 3, where did subscription gaming go wrong? I bet we're going to talk a little bit about Game Pass. A lot about Game Pass. And then topic number 4, AAA versus AA. People are saying AA is the savior. And then nobody knows what AAA is. Nobody knows what AA is. Nobody can say what AA hit they're referring to, etc. So that. And then the final one is what's up with portables? Steam Decks and Switch 2. That's pretty hot in the market. So, Rhys, where do we go out of these 5? What do we start with?
I'm just going to start with the first and go
Fat cats and hungry
chronologically.
cats.
Let's do it. Even though I'm going to forget what the order you said it is
I'm,
in, we'll
I'm
just
gonna, I'm
start
gonna,
with start.
yeah, I'm gonna present the four more. You can switch around. So
Yeah.
what's your take on fat cats and hungry cats? And the way I'm gonna present this is, especially during the investment boom, the lockdown periods, the bad C word. So
The other
during
bad
that,
C word.
yeah, well, the other one is not that bad in English. I mean, depends where you say it. Yeah, so, or Australia, and so when thinking about those years, and especially the studios that got funding, we're talking about Theorycraft, Believer, you name it, like raising over $100 million, or at least tens of millions, the mountaintop games. And anyways, you people can name all of those studios. They are raising
Mhm.
all 60, 70, 80, 100, 120, $130 million, and not a lot of success. The only successful case of the sort of fat cats, if you will, people coming in from previous accomplishments and essentially having their faces plastered on the Mount Rushmore of gaming. Like maybe Snap would be, or sorry, not Snap, Marvel Snap from Second Dinner could be
Mhm.
pointed out as the only success case. And even if you consider where Marvel Snap is, the publishing agreements and so forth, it's not like it's soaring. It's like people are waiting for what comes next, and them boys have raised a lot of money. So,
Mhm.
Rhys, fat cats versus hungry cats. Where do you put your money in?
Game devs. We know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. However, coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured, engaging games? Check out Hero today by clicking the link below.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as you. It's a mix, right? Like I know that's a very
Yeah.
conservative answer, but like you were saying, Mishka, like a lot of the time, those new studios from the legends, from the Fat Cats, don't necessarily play out. Like you mentioned, Second Dinner, which is a good one, but even that isn't. It's great. Like Marvel Snap is fucking amazing, but it's not quite living up to its like long term potential so
Or
far.
investment size.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Another exception is like Respawn, so the Apex Legends, Star Wars Jedi team, which the Call of Duty OG guys from Infinity Ward spun out from back in the day. They're doing really well. But yeah, like as far back as 2018, like all the founders from Blizzard and Riot and all the old guard, they kind of went off to do their own thing. A lot of those games flopped, went radio silent, like we're still waiting. But obviously there is good stuff to come, and there are still huge fat cats that do hit it out of the park. Like I don't know, like Neil Druckmann from Naughty Dog, Hideo Kojima, who's coming out with Death Stranding 2 soon, Miyazaki at From Software, who just keeps raising the bar over and over. We've got Larian, with Baldur's Gate 3.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Brode as well, Second Dinner, fantastic, despite some challenges and not exactly living up to the ROI
Yeah.
yet.
130 million dollars raised. I just checked.
I know, it's a lot, it's a lot, and like as well, it's important to remember like the auteurs, the fat cats, they're cool and they grab headlines, but it does take a whole team to build the game, right? So like those like hungry dogs, those new breed of devs doing their own thing, sort of decoupled from that fame and glory and like traditional publisher pressure, even like they're breaking through, right? Like one recent example that I've been looking at a lot lately is Claire Obscura at Expedition 33.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
that game had like a core team of like 30-ish people, mostly juniors. There's a few like, senior-ish people from Ubisoft coming over. Of course, 30-ish people is just the core team. There is a wider support team, as always. Like I hate those headlines. Like this game was made by 2 people, by 30 people. It's like no.
With
If you look,
$15 over 2 months.
yeah,
It's
just
like,
look at the damn credits. You're waiting there for like 10 minutes for it to scroll. That is not 30 names. But still, it's a small team relative to like the huge AAA still. And it's right now it's the hottest game in the market, right? Like Alinea data, best in the business, by the way, just saying, shows that Expedition 33, it's got 2 million copies now
Mhm.
across PlayStation and Steam, despite the small team size and budget, of course, that goes with that. and also 2 million wish lists on Steam. So like as the price goes down, it's pretty cheap anyway at $50. It will have like a longer tail too. And these people, like the team, they wanted to make a JRPG that big studios kind of ignored. Square Enix was like, people just don't want this, so we're going to do action combat, fast paced. So there was a gap in the market for that. Players were saying they wanted it. The data, the research, the consumer research said that they wanted it, but for some reason, like the big AAA companies kind of ignored it. The only ones that did make those JRPGs were the super like anime focused ones, like your Personas and like Metaphor ReFantasio. So yeah, these guys were hungry for it. Like they weren't beholden to kind of leadership in kind of certain ways that the big teams, your Square Enixes were, and they kind of brought out this like turn-based RPG that just absolutely hit it out of the park. Nobody knew who these guys were, I don't know, 2 months ago. Now everybody's talking about them, right? Yeah. Kepler, who published the game, they've struck gold with this one.
And now I'm thinking about Bonfire is another one that finally showed what they've been working on. And even part of those games have been already in the market, but they're now publishing them. It's kind of weird. They're saying like, oh, here's our 5 games. Like, that has been on Steam already for a year. Like, how is that your game? It's like Netflix. Like these are. Have you played Civilization 6? It's like, yes, we have. That is not, or GTA 3 or 4. It's like, these are not your games. You just paid a lot of money to put your stamp on it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, just quick aside, the Netflix thing, it really, I don't know, it like bugs me a little bit, honestly. Like they kind of put games in your face no matter who you are on the front end, on the big screen experience.
Super expensive
as well.
Real estate, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like my girlfriend, like I was just sitting in the room. This is obviously anecdotal, but she opened Netflix to watch Love is Blind, and there was a huge banner across the screen saying like, try GTA now on your mobile. And she's like, I don't want to like play GTA. Number one, she's not the demographic for that. She hates GTA. Number two, she's in there to watch content. So like, it's, we're going to talk about zero game stuff later.
Yeah.
Like the attention is a zero sum game, and Netflix used its biggest real estate to advertise the wrong thing to the wrong person.
I've wrote about it, previously. Like, I don't see this surviving more than 2 years. Probably like 2 is max that they can survive. Let's get back to Fat Cats and Hungry Cats. And by the way, I don't wish Netflix games anything bad. I wish they would have succeeded. And I'm just expressing my frustration because they had the platform, they had the resources, they had the amazing culture. And what came out is so fucking disappointing. It's like the worst version of Apple Arcade, and Apple Arcade is not a good business. And you take that and you fuck that up, and it's like, wow. That's anyways, and spend like $4 billion doing that. It's just insane. So
you can't buy your way into the games market. Like Google couldn't do it with Stadia. Amazon is kind of struggling.
Saudi Arabia is kind of getting a little bit.
I mean, sure, but not from the ground up, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can invest your way into gaming, but you can't buy, gaming. But talking about the Fat Cats and Hungry Cats, the way I was thinking about this is, I'm probably a fat cat. So if I think about myself, I got the experience, I got the connections, I can raise money. But where I'm not anymore a hungry cat is I'm almost 40. Like that's one thing, and that brings other elements to it because I've worked, I had a startup and I worked at smaller studio. But if I only had worked at larger studios, like the Zyngas of the world, then I would have been very much used to central services. And through that, I'm kind of used to certain type of team sizes. And I'm not counting all the bodies that are in our central tech team and the marketing and the audio department. They, to me, come in as given. I don't have to even look at it. They're barely in my profit and loss statements. And that leads to not only the team sizes that I'm used to, but it also leads to different type of a cost structure that I'm accustomed to, especially when I'm seeing a lot of these investment decks for studios by fat cats. And again, we're not derogatory by saying fat cat. I identify as a fat cat, just to be clear. So we see the pitches and like even in pre-seed stages, the fat cat executives are asking for a salary of, 400,000, 500,000 a year. And they're raising a pre-seed. Like, we're now just going to start the studio, and I would like you to pay me what I was making at Blizzard, Riot, and whatnot, which is just absurd. You're like essentially taking no risk, only banking on some upside, and all the risk will be taken by your investors. And then that leads to a final point that fat cats have that hungry cats don't, and that is ego. And essentially, like, why are you doing this? Like, let's say you shipped World of Warcraft or StarCraft or League of Legends. You were, a big shot on that, or a leadership function. Like, oftentimes you'd ask them, like, why are you doing this? And it's like it's a legacy play. Like, oh, now I want to do this for me, like this thing that will stay forever. And like, that's a really weird reason to do anything.
Yeah,
it's almost like building yourself a pyramid. It's like, and why are we doing this?
Yeah, it's true. And the vast majority of gamers don't give a shit. Like, it's all on the supply side, that, right? Like, that's like internal for the investment, for like talent acquisition. At the end of the day, like, people move around the games industry so much that pretty much any game or new studio can like market itself, like, made by people who helped make League of Legends, who helped make Call of Duty. Like, that's not really a USP that matters for consumers. So like, I think there is a big kind of gap there, right? Like, people think that it's like a marketing thing. And yes, there are core gamers that will be drawn to that. And there is like institutional expertise that can translate over and does. But in general, there's just so many games, like from big studios, small studios, that like, having a big name doesn't necessarily change things. It doesn't move the needle. And it's certainly not worth like, $2 million of budget over 3 years or something like that,
And we've noticed also that the games that these studios make are pretty much the same that they were doing, but worse, because they're smaller with less of a budget, even though incredibly high budget. And there's kind of like lack of creativity. It's almost like a incremental innovation that might not be even going towards a better direction. And I'm not saying I am saying legacy is a wrong reason to do anything. I think it's incredibly self-centered, and you should probably go to therapy. But I'm serious. But if your goal is to like, I want to make a lot of money, that's even better, because now you have the exact same goal as the investors. You are aligned. Investors are not aligned with you building yourself a pyramid, but they would be for something else. Or even better is just having some kind of a chip on the shoulder. Maybe you were fired for that company. There was something and they didn't believe in your vision and so forth, and you leave and you say like, fuck you, I'm going to show you that what I was pitching, what I wanted to do is the thing that makes it. And that internal fire inside of you will make you work harder and make you take risks and execute on them, rather than like, I don't need money, I'm pretty well off, I don't need this, I don't need that. Me and the boys left and we're going to build the sort of a legacy for ourselves. That's
exactly.
That's the weirdest reason.
I know, it's true, but it can kind of work as well. I mean, the legacy stuff can be decoupled from that, right? You might just have had something you think is a really good idea, but you get shot down because, I don't know, maybe the consumer research says this, or maybe somebody on the exec team just, more often than not, it's this, someone on the exec team just doesn't think it's a good idea. But then you can spin out and make that thing, and it can do well. That's what happened with Expedition 33. Yes. And at the same time, you have like these indie games made by a couple of people. Like Schedule 1 is a big one right now. Like, it's made by a tiny team, and it's like broken through. It's like sold more copies than any of these spin-off studios, and it's just like literally a few dudes. And like Blueprints as well that's kind of more niche. Still, if you're talking about ROI per employee, it's doing a lot better than some of those big dogs,
Yeah, and plus, because they don't get that funding that fat cats do with their connections, with their pedigree, they have to figure things out. They have to move really fast. But if you're able to clear a $30 million check off when you're walking out of the Riot or Blizzard campus or you name it, then you don't really have that sense of urgency. You're just kind of like, okay, this is the first check. Let's start building. Let's copy the organization that we had, but bring in only superstars and this and that. And basically the money came so easily that you don't really appreciated, and that in my opinion leads to problems. Web stores. You've seen what good looks like, but have you seen great? AppCharge is the direct-to-consumer platform backed by the likes of Supercell and built by monetization pros from Moonactive, Playtika, Huge Games, and others. People who know the difference. AppCharge powers over $500 million in transaction a year for top studios, optimizing every detail. Deeply personalized web store offers custom-made design, industry-leading monetization features, in-game payments, SDK, and more. 70% of top grossing games already have a web store, but the ones scaling fastest, they're doing it with AppCharge. Learn more at appcharge.com.
Yeah, like some studios, they're like a lot of studios actually, they're in pre-production for like 2 or 3 years. It's like, guys, if you've got to start like building something. I know ideation is important and getting that right is important, but like it costs a lot of damn money to be ideating and prototyping for 3 years. And sadly, a lot of these like big, the studios that attracted so much investment back in the day, that's what they did. And that's why it's radio silent, because they were getting all that funding during the pandemic, but now it's dried up. And now they're like, shit, we were ideating for 3 years. Now we've got to make something and the funding's dried up. Like, oh shit, like what do we do? And it's like, I don't know. I think that lesson's kind of been learned, I think now. I think in the future, when this happens, it is happening, they'll just start building quicker. I think it's a necessity, right? Like you have to right now because it's,
Or give up.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, the thing is, like, you don't have to. That's the thing. You can just drive this to the wall and say, hey, we did a good try. Here are all the artwork that we did and didn't work out. And I'm going to go back to Company X or just, join a fund or do something different.
Yeah, creative differences, right?
Yeah, you don't have to work anymore. That's the thing. And that's, I think that's a challenge that makes you a fat cat, usually. It's like, you can do whatever you want to do. And doing hard things is not what people are used to. But I wanted to kind of like bring this together is like, how do you evaluate? Because it's definitely not so that if somebody has had success, that they are automatically a fat cat. Like, the Elon Musk or the Zuckerbergs of the world are just constantly, trying to build more and more, which is just insane because, who's fatter than those cats? But how would you evaluate or look at a team that is coming into PC console with an idea, and how would you evaluate whether they are fat cats or just experienced cats who are still hungry?
That's tough, like, because you like a lot of the time it is a black box, right? You have to like go through LinkedIn and look through everybody and really try and like work it out. But I think my advice is to like anybody investing in a team is don't just look at those fat cats. Don't just look at the people at the top. Look at the other people contributing to the game. Look at, where they worked before and everything like that, because ideas are, awesome and they help power this industry. But they're cheap, right? It's not the author who's like making the product or doing the monetization that's going to help get you that return on investment. It's the game economists, it's the like monetization people. So you need to look at all that stuff as well, right? And you need to, don't get carried away by, somebody who made a successful product 20 years ago. The market's very different now. So just look at the wider team, I think. Like, I know that doesn't necessarily directly answer your question, but just don't look at just those few names. Like, look at the wider team, look at what they're doing, look at their actual like business plan. And if they've executed on a business plan previously, like talk to, acquaintances who know that person, because like there, as you know, Mishka, there are a lot of fat cats who don't know what they're doing. Like simply put, knew what they were doing 20 years ago, but like they still kind of work in that like older PC console mindset, but it's a different market now, right? Like you said, you can't just lean on legacy to create a product that kind of sells well these days. There has to be something more, right? Like a name can't just, a marketing name isn't going to be your success driver.
Yeah, those are good advices. Like to me, it's tough. Like I've met many of these companies, and I'm as starstruck as any investor or any game developer. Like it's a It's amazing to talk to people who have made the games that you have the most fondest memories of, and they are very convincing, and because they believe in what they're saying. So I personally like for me, if we're talking about investments, then I would just put it more into like, don't forget the principles of investing when you're doing this. Like if somebody's asking for a pre-seed round of 50 million, that's probably too expensive. And that's probably too much. Let's say, help them to get the steps. And especially if they're coming in from a situation, like the best way to see it, if they're about startup life, is for them to bootstrap for a while. Just see where they can get with a small team and when they're paying their own salaries or not paying anything. Can you handle 6 months, just 6 months with no salary, just doing the work because you believe in what you're doing and you're ready to put your money where your mouth is? Can you do that? If you can't, if you need right away, continue those big checks, then probably startup life is not for you. Probably you should stay at the corporation you were in, where you are respected, where you have big teams, and maybe through that kind of get to build a new game inside that organization or just continue. But startup life is extremely tough, and I don't recommend it to anybody, especially to folks that have accustomed to the certain privileges of large successful corporations.
It's a lot more work, right? You have to actually deal with everything.
Oh yeah,
At a startup,
you plan
everything.
and you do. You plan, you do, and that's your life. So
exactly. Yeah. Should we talk about shorter games then? Because the double A thing.
Yeah.
I'm kind
Okay.
of
Let's
excited
move on
about
to
that.
AAA and AA. So you mentioned Expedition 33, and of course we've had pretty big AAA game successes and failures, especially as of late. And it's kind of been shifting towards more of this, like, well, AA is the way to go with Expedition or
Helldivers too.
Helldivers is a great example. All these games are still, we're talking about tens of millions of budget, if not 100. So talk a little bit like, what is the difference between AAA and AA, and what do you see the future there?
Yeah, I mean the difference, you can throw it at a dartboard. Everybody has a different explanation of that. Personally, I think if it's over 100 million, it's AAA. Anything less than that is going to be AA or indie, and obviously team size factors in, the publisher behind it and everything. But that's usually kind of a fast and loose method that I kind of use anyway. But obviously, it's hard to tell because not everybody tells their budget. So sometimes you just got to go by gut, right? Like, this is an indie game, this is a AA game, this is a AAA game. That's a very qualitative answer, but like candidly, that's what you've got to do because the data is not actually fucking available, like for most games. But yeah, let's talk about like the actual challenge, right? Like the games industry, and I'm more talking about like premium games on console and PC now rather than mobile. It has a pretty unique challenge, like on the supply side and the demand side. Like on the supply side, like the new AAA games can take like 5 years or more to make, and often have budgets, like you said, in the hundreds of millions. GTA 6 is a different thing. That's going to be like 2 billion, I think, all said and
marketing,
done. Yeah, with marketing, especially now with the delay. But also like on the demand side, like player attention and playtime are already maxed out, right? Like, so most gamers have about 10 hours a week to play, spread across different sessions. There are people who play a lot more and a lot less, but they have limited game time, which is one of the reasons for like the stagnating user uptake on like Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, that we'll talk about later. But yeah, like most games are just not as digestible as movies, TV shows, blah blah blah. But gaming is more of an active pastime as well. When you're playing a game, you've got to play the game. You can't scroll through TikTok. You can't maybe you can watch Netflix in the background, but that's it's difficult. So like, yeah, games are too long. Games are way too long for your average consumer. Like, it's really been like an insidious creep over time as well. Like, games have gotten, over the past 20 years, I guess, just a little bit longer every year. And then when you compound that over the 10, 15 years, it's just like an insane jump in game length. Like Assassin's Creed 2 back in the day, back in, what was it, 2009, finished that in 15 hours. Assassin's Creed Shadows that just came out. I think I played it for like 60 hours. I've not finished it. I'm not going to finish it. Like I don't have time. I'm done. My experience
Yeah.
is done.
With the Black
So
Samurai?
yeah, that's the one. Yeah. I mean, it's a good game, but like I've got what I wanted out of that game now. It was
Yeah.
fun to play. But yeah, there is a negative correlation, obviously, between the game length and completion. And you can easily see that by like looking at the trophy and achievement data and like, cross-referencing that with completion data, which is, time to complete data.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of websites that show how long games take to finish. And like, would players notice if you cut the length of Assassin's Creed by like 30%? Probably not. I would actually prefer it, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
people like me as well, because I probably would have finished the damn game if it was 20% shorter. And so, because gamers are playing like long into adulthood these days as well, like you and I, we both still play games, and like career goals, families, social shit gets in the way. I don't have 100 hours to play an RPG anymore. So, like, another way that kind of publishers, developers are giving players more like freedom there is games that take, I don't know, 20 hours, 30 hours to finish, but then you can do all the side content and play for more. So, that's something that an Xbox RPG from either last year or earlier this year avowed. It gave players that choice. You can finish the game, Critical Path, Golden Path, 15 hours, or you can play for 40 hours, do everything. Expedition 33 did something similar. You can finish the main game 25, 30 hours. Crazy short for a JRPG. They're usually 100 hours. But you can kind of play it for longer, do the side stuff, and do it for like 50 hours or more. And our playtime data shows there's a big mix there. Like a lot of players have played, I think a third have played between 20 and 50 hours of Expedition 33. But then 12% have played over like 50 hours. And I reckon there's going to be a lot more like experimenting here, like with developers. So they're going to make the critical path a lot shorter. And therefore the budgets are just going to go down anyway, right? Because, like we were getting at earlier, Mishka, like in this mature games market we're in now, it's like profitability that's kind of vital. And so these kind of like AA games that take 3 years to make instead of 6 years, like, Helldivers, Astrobot, and even games that they can take longer, but what's it called? Kingdom Come Deliverance 2
Yeah.
took 5 or 6 years to make, but it's made in Czechia, right? So that the price for talent, the salaries are a lot lower. So they were only paying like I think 50 million for their budget, and there's this big chunky RPG, right? So I think we'll see a lot more of that. But these big 100-hour plus RPGs and expensive big budget games should still exist because there is still a market for them. But not every bloody game needs to be like that. Like not every Hollywood movie needs to be like have the same budget and scope as like a Marvel movie, right? So
Yeah, not even a Marvel movie needs to have a Marvel budget, as we've seen.
yeah, true. They're flopping. Yeah, that's a good example. But yeah, like I mean, there's a world where you can have a AAA looking and feeling game on a AA budget. Like even Sony's done it with Astrobot, even with Miles Morales, the Spider-Man game, still sells tens of millions, but like on a fraction of the budget of the Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1. So yeah, it's just like just make the games a little bit smaller. Like they still sell. Like
Yeah.
it's been proven now, right? Like yes, GTA will be different, but yeah, players want shorter games. Like the jury's kind of out.
I 100% agree. And because before we had shorter games when we were kids and youngsters, we just replayed them on different difficulty levels. That was the whole thing. And we got the trophies, the achievements through that rather than making an endless game. And so things that you pointed out were pretty interesting. Like on a macro level, you said playtime has been maxed out. People play as much as they can. It's not increasing. We don't have more time in our day. You said attention deficit, which is definitely true. People just on their screen all the time, and it's not the screen of your TV. It's your phone screen. It's your TikTok reels. It's the YouTubes that are ever more engaging and taking more time. And with games, as you said, immersive experience, not even like Netflix. You actually have to be in it. You can't be doing a bunch of stuff on the side. And then the combination of games being too long, so too demanding, they're too cheap to sell. The price hasn't increased with the inflation or the cost to make. They're too expensive to build. And all this together is you have a very high risk of making a AAA game just due to the cost and the fact that the market is not growing. So you essentially have to kick somebody else off the market. And that risk leads to less risk-taking in creativity. So you'll just do a sequel. And then that's where we kind of are, is just a sequel game, the Call of Duties, the Spider-Man or whatnot. It's like everything is a sequel and nothing is new. And that, in turn, has opened up the game for AA's that don't suffer from the same elements. They don't try to make it too long of a game because they don't have the budget for it. And they can now make more creative. They're incentivized to make more creative game that stands out in the market. And through that, they can actually win more.
Yeah. Yeah, well put.
So AAA essentially has, by constantly expanding the production costs, has opened up the door for creative AA's.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like you said, the companies, it's like sequelitis, right? Like you look back to the like Guitar Hero days, the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater days, like those franchises were just, mined dry. And like you see it happening with Assassin's Creed now, right? Like we saw in Ubisoft's, recent financials, they're down like, I think almost 20% year on year. And like that was an Assassin's Creed launch. Like, like it's,
so
you
people
can't
are
just
kind of
rely.
tired.
Yeah.
And the problem with the sequels, I think, is that it works for folks who are looking for that nostalgic, hit. I never played Assassin's Creed. It's not like this type of a sort of Prince of Persia in 3D is not my jam. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Just not interested. And if I would be coming in right now, like they made some iterations that were more interesting in terms of theme and the setting, but I was just looking, I'm like, oh, I haven't played the previous Assassin's Creed. It's kind of not for me. So it's kind of hard to jump in the middle, just like with Marvel movies. I mean, they reset it every time. Like, hey, Spider-Man, new actor. Every 10 years, we get kind of like a reset of Spider-Man, which kind of makes sense. But with these, it's almost harder to jump into a franchise and start playing than it is to jump on one of these new hot Steam games, the Helldivers of the world. It's not like there's a 20 years of Helldivers like Call of Duties and you just jump in and get demolished immediately. It's like, no, everybody's starting from the same point. So yeah. I feel like they, as you said, with Ubisoft, when these franchises or in Marvel, when they get too long in the tooth, there's a risk of just decline. And then they're putting in more and more effort to make it more expensive, more bombastic, quadruple A, as they were saying. And that kind of gets them back to the base level. But now they're paying multiple times more than they were in the beginning to get the same hit.
Yeah, it's just spiraled out of control, basically, right? Like, and they need to like go back to the drawing board and just cut the bloat, honestly.
Yeah, or acquire some of these AA developers and get some creativity back into the game.
Yeah,
come up
exactly.
with new games.
Yeah, for sure. There is like a mid ground as well. Like EA has done this with, the team that did Split Fiction and It Takes Two, so Hazelight. They kind of just let them do their thing. They're a smaller team on the side. They take 3.54 years to make a game on a tight, budget. And so they're independent actually. So EA just publishes their games. But that has worked really well. There's been a huge ROI on that. So like, publishers can do it and they can be a little bit smarter and just kind of like hedge their bets a little bit more with these smaller studios, because like Split Fiction is doing a lot better than EA's other like properties. Obviously not FIFA and Apex Legends, but it has helped them boost their revenues at a time where FIFA is kind of like plateaued a little bit, because we won't get too deeply into that, but the monetization loop on last year's game was not great. Like I usually, for example, my friends and I usually play for 8 months. We were done after 2 months because we had like all the best players. They really fubbed it last year, but Split Fiction has helped them kind of like level it out. So yeah, there's a lot more room to do stuff like that and partner or acquire these kind of hungry dogs, so to speak.
Interesting. Yeah, I 100% agree. So, want to move up to the next topic? I think we went through double A, triple A.
Yeah, which one? Your choice this time, Mishka.
So, okay, we talked a little bit about Netflix and my frustration with the lost potential. So, where did subscription gaming go wrong? I bet you will be talking more about Xbox Game Pass.
This podcast is brought to you by AppsFlyer. In today's digital world, understanding your app's journey from discovery to download is more than just insightful, it's essential. Enter AppsFlyer, the leader in mobile attribution and marketing analytics that allows you to measure the full potential of your marketing efforts, making every ad dollar work smarter. With AppsFlyer, that's your new reality. Dive deep into data-driven insights that reveal exactly where your users come from and how they'll interact with your app. AppsFlyer, where your app's potential meets performance.
Yeah, I think so. So like, you remember like 5 years ago, everybody, your Newzoos, just everybody was like, subscriptions are going to be the only way
The
gamers.
Netflix of gaming.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be like Spotify with music, like Netflix with video. That's next. That's gaming's next frontier. And despite like companies' best efforts, like subscriptions are never going to be the main like method of game distribution, in my opinion. This is something I've been saying for like years now, and it's like it was always quite obvious. And Mishka, it goes back to what we were saying about the attention deficit, the attention economy being oversaturated. Like that's already true, and like consuming games is way more demanding than other mediums. So kind of thinking that the Spotify and Netflix model would just work for gaming, it's kind of like naive if you ask me, because a consumer, they can listen to hundreds of tracks on Spotify a month at least. They can watch dozens of movies, TV episodes, but like we were saying, like they can only really play one, maybe two like premium games a month. And then like that's just the tip of the iceberg of it as well, right? Because most gamers are already served by like your free to play market. So you've got Fortnite, Candy Crush, Roblox, whatever, or they're just happy to buy a few premium games a year. Like last year, college football, Black Myth, Helldivers, whatever. Next year it'll be GTA. And so yeah, but the people just don't have time for it, and for that reason, like PlayStation, Nintendo are seeing stagnating subscriber numbers. And even Game Pass, which is like, the big one that everybody was like, this is the future. It's completely like starting to saturate on console. Like they did show that their, what do they call it? Like game content services revenues spiked, Microsoft recently. And people were like, oh yeah, that's because Game Pass. But it's like, no, they like increased the prices. So it's just like more ARPU, right? Like that's the classic.
Yeah.
That's what these, so that's what subscriptions who have finished their growth phase and moved on to the retention phase do. They try and maximize like revenue per user. So that to me was the canary in the coal mine for Game Pass on console. Like the PC price is still cheap, so there's still some growth coming from there. But like you just can't move PC gamers off Steam. Like for fuck's sake, Epic gives away free games on their store, but people would like literally rather buy them on Steam. So, and like even with the big Game Pass games, right? Like what was the late? I mean, even Claire Obscura, that was on Game Pass PC. Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered, that was on Game Pass PC. But still, both those games are still selling over 1 million on Steam. So people would rather just pay for it and play it than access it through Game Pass PC. And yeah, I think they've almost kind of run out of runway, which is why Xbox, for example, is like releasing more games on PlayStation. And I think that we're almost at the simultaneous launch on Xbox PC and PlayStation. Like they're like almost subsidizing Game Pass on console with those kind of premium revenues on PlayStation, because so Alinea data again on PlayStation we can see that Forza Horizon 5, which was used to be Xbox PC exclusive and came to PlayStation this month actually. It sold like over 1.2 million copies on PlayStation. So that's instantly almost 100 million in revenue for Microsoft via PlayStation just for a port. So yeah, I don't know. I think the days of subscriptions are kind of as the main way to access games are over. I think there'll always be like a secondary or tertiary like distribution in the market. Like it'll just kind of be there in the background for people who want it. But like, I mean, another canary in the coal mine for Game Pass was that last year Xbox, they used to have, you could have day one access to first party Xbox games like on pretty much every Game Pass tier. And last year they moved that only to the ultimate tier. So clearly something's not quite working, and they're really trying to like shift the value proposition, actually like less value for the core subscription. So they're trying to upsell people. So, I mean, Phil Spencer, the CEO of Xbox, said it himself, right? Like he has targets to hit. He needs to show growth. And, Game Pass isn't showing that growth. So they're trying to get it through PlayStation, off-platform. The cloud stuff is not quite working out, but there is some uptake in, Latin America and stuff like that. But the cloud stuff, if it ever hits, it'll ever lands properly. We're decades out. Like it's just, consumers don't necessarily want to play that way. So yeah, I realize I've been yapping on. Like, what's your take on this one?
To run a successful subscription service, you have to have, and for games, I don't think anybody really plays back catalog, to be honest. I think it's all about the new games, just like with any kind of subscription service. I mean, Netflix is a little bit different because people watch like old Friends and so forth. But typically it's all about the new, with Netflix as well in the end. That's what brings the new users. But it's so expensive to launch new games on a subscription service. And making a new game, a new good game, I would assume it's more expensive than making most of the movies on Netflix, and definitely more expensive than making a show. Plus, when you make a show, you essentially can, get the next season and the following season until the engagement drops. So you get those shows. But with games, because these services have been built around paid games, they kind of never took into account that we have this totally other business model happening that is fully focused on engagement, which is games as a services.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's those games, the Fortnites, the Robloxes, the you name it, that are focusing on taking users' time. And then there are the paid games. And so when you launch a subscription service, you're essentially devaluing the paid games, because now you're either giving them as a part of this subscription, or there are certain paid games where people just, they don't get the highest Metacritic. So basically you're just waiting for them to come in as a free to subscription service that you're using. Or even if they get good enough, you're just earmark it like, yeah, I'll play it when it comes to this subscription service, because now I'm just too engaged with playing these GaaSes, or I already have a giant catalog of different games. So I can wait for 3, 5, 6 months, no problem, even a year. I'll play it when it comes. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is that this design around subscription games has been done in a way that it just hasn't taken into account that 92% of players' time goes into older franchises or games as a service. Like FIFA is kind of game as a service. They do launch a new version every year, but nevertheless, that's the same game with a new sequel. So if there weren't games as services, if there weren't the live operated game, I think subscription service could do pretty well. But because they are, and because they are dominating, then I find it extremely confusing that these executives would make these decisions, emboldened of course by McKinsey and the likes, that this is the way to go, and they're looking into an absolute disaster, and are still kind of are they still doing it? Like, what's the situation with Game Pass? Because Apple Arcade is essentially on life support in a way. It's just bundled together with other services because it doesn't make sense on its own. Netflix is in its last pivot before they move fully into licensing, and Xbox is in trouble. Game Pass has significantly underperformed. What's the situation with that?
Yeah, so like a little bit of context, like the reason they went all in on Game Pass is because they completely dropped the ball on the Xbox One generation. Like they did well with Xbox 360.
Yes.
but PS4 just completely eclipsed it because like they with Xbox One did like Connect, always online. It was $100 more expensive than the PS4. So Phil Spencer came in at the end of the Xbox One generation, was like, right, we need a new value proposition, and that was Game Pass. And it did do well. It did grow over those first few years because the value for money was just like crazy, honestly. But now, yeah, it's oversaturated. It is still like growing a little bit, but like, it's pretty much flat for all intents and purposes. So yeah, it's not doing well, like you said, but the Xbox is in a unique position in that it has like 30 million plus subscribers for Game Pass, and like the subscribers are getting a lot of cool content, and they're actually really loving it. Like Game Pass is having one of its best years ever this year with like Expedition, Oblivion. We've got Doom coming this month, a new Halo game, new Gears remake in the summer. So like Xbox is serving that audience with Game Pass, but they're kind of bolstering that by releasing the games. So like nobody buys games on Xbox first party Xbox games because they can get them on Game Pass. But people buy them on PC and people do buy them on PlayStation. So they are still getting premium sales off platform. So they're kind of having it both ways. And I think, they're also just kind of doing that, like keeping their revenues afloat until they can like try and do their grand plan, their big mobile launch, which I don't know how that's going to go, honestly. They want to reach, what is it, like a billion gamers. You're not going to do that with console and PC. So I think they're getting their ducks in a row there. So Game Pass, while I wouldn't call it a failure, I'd say it's flat and it's just there in the background. And now like Xbox is kind of focusing on other things. Like, for example, I think the next Forza game and the next like main Gears of War game, that will come to PlayStation and Xbox at the same time. So the Game Pass revenues will keep chugging along, but they will get those premium revenues on PlayStation and Steam. So I think that's kind of what they're going for right now. But whether it pays off or not, we'll see.
Yeah, in the end, subscription model is what we call an economy of scale. And that means that the more payers you're getting, the cheaper the average cost per service, in this case, game, will be. And without the growth that they need to have, these services become financially just simply unsustainable because the production costs are very high and the acquisition costs are very high. And that's why we're constantly watching is like, how much does it grow? That's why we're watching Netflix numbers. How much does it grow? Spotify, how many subscribers you have? That is the key number. And they can talk about everything else, the games coming out and this and that. But unless your subscriber number grows and your target was 100 million, I'm not sure where it is at the moment. Is it at 40?
I'd say just under 40 right now.
Yeah,
the fact that they've stopped giving the number is very telling. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And they reached 40% of the goal, not 60%, not 70, 40. And then they were like, you know what, guys, listen, how about Metal Gear Solid? How about Call of Duty? They're like, no. Talk about the most important metric that we watch with every single other subscription service. But Xbox not showing it. So closing down studios, which further limits the amount of new games coming out, and it's just not a good sign, and it's pretty telling that other services have gone through the same thing. Like there were several pivots with Apple Arcade, I think 2 different ones where developers were being cut, etc. I did the back of the napkin calculations. I forgot where I landed, but I landed on like, them kind of like losing close to $800 million based on like the amount of games and the average cost for a game and how many subscribers they had at that point to Apple Arcade. Of course, since then, they've did the same that Xbox did, muddied the water. So now they don't tell how many subscribers for Apple Arcade there are. They just tell to Apple One subscribers. And then Apple One subscribers, of course, are a much larger group. And so in the sense, this service makes, is great. Same thing they do at Netflix games, apparently, where it's because they don't have any financial responsibility since they are not trying to monetize and they're part of that engagement loop. And I haven't heard any ways they measure the success, maybe other than installs or some weird engagement number that they might have. But in the end, as your girlfriend in a great example pointed out, it's taking super valuable real estate from the main goal of the service. And through that, I just feel it's a matter of time before the plug is pulled on this experiment that cost them several $1 billion, but because the company is so profitable and good, it doesn't really, matter, which is absurd.
Yeah, I agree. It's been like, what they call it in the NBA world is a opportunity cost, right? Like it's just, Netflix should have maybe been chasing the live sports stuff, which is doing well for them.
Extremely well.
But instead they kind of went more in on games. I bet they're kicking themselves now. Think of all the sports rights they could have had if they'd used the budget that they, poured into games into more sports rights. They'd be laughing. But hindsight, it's...
Yeah, but it goes also to our first conversations of fat cats and hungry cats, because that organization was the fattest of the fattest cats were dropped, drop shipped to Netflix games. Every accomplished executive joined with, knowing some of these packages that they have, just absurdly high packages, just kind of ride off to the sunset type of packages. And that was the result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. Right, should we move on to one of the next topics? This has been we've been chatting. Like, I love this. This is good.
This is actually a podcast.
Yeah, it is literally a podcast.
So we have only one left.
I think we got two, right? We got live services and portables, I think.
Oh yeah, that's true. I thought we talked about live services. So let's cover live services then quickly. Well, here's how I see it. Most of these studios that are making live services for console that started doing were studios that weren't doing live services before. They were doing single-off premium games. And because McKinsey and company came over and said, look at the numbers of Fortnite, look at the engagement, look at all of that. This is what you need to be doing. It's reoccurring revenue. This is the golden goose. And Destiny 2, great example, so forth. And so now you've had the pivots from almost all the great studios to a totally different business model with absolutely different skill set. But nevertheless, the way these studios were producing content is the same. Story-driven, high production value. Like, all of their beliefs of what makes a good game is exactly the reason why, people like myself can't go and make a good Roblox game. Just because the audience is so different, and the way you should be making games and the way you should approaching. It's like whatever you've learned is wrong. And so they tried this. And it's been quite of a bloodbath with long development times. They don't have the monetization chops. They don't have the live ops capabilities. They can't produce content fast enough because they're spending too much time with their existing process, and they're just not equipped to make this. And we're seeing a lot of failures in that front. And at the same time, we're seeing success with companies that are that operate in this way, entering PC, entering console, essentially stealing all the engagement. Where we're talking about League of Legends or the Dotas or Robloxes or Fortnites, or they are taking the engagement away, and I think that's the biggest challenge. Now, there have been success cases like Call of Duty Warzone was a good example of a bold move to free to play, but I feel like Activision it capitalized it. It came on the right time, but it kind of didn't follow up through that. It continued to milk the customers through the old model of we're going to ship all these games, but we also have this free to play on the side. They didn't move full on into free to play, and essentially it's just a side quest now.
Yeah, exactly.
GTA, of course, GTA Live as well.
Yeah.
Attention app and game developers. Are you ready to unlock the secrets behind the world's top performing apps and games? With Sensor Tower, you get the ultimate competitive edge, whether it's breaking into new markets, fine-tuning your UA strategies, or boosting monetization. Dive into data like never before. Track global trends across app stores. Analyze market-leading in-app purchase and in-app ad strategies, and benchmark your performance with real-time insight. The best part, Sensor Tower doesn't just deliver data, it helps you turn it into action. With intuitive tools and expert analysis, it's everything you need to make smarter, faster decisions. Thousands of app and game studios, from indie creators to global giants, trust Sensor Tower to help them win. So why not you? Start your free trial today at sensortower.com. That is Sensor Tower,
That I think that'll hit it out of the park because they've just been building it for almost 10 years, right?
Yes.
But no, like you're right. Like these companies, the premium companies, they saw the success of Fortnite, Roblox, League, and McKinsey, and the ilk kind of said, yeah, hitch your wagon to the live service trend. It's going to the moon, do it. But yeah, they just didn't have the skill set to do it. Like we had Concord that was taken off the market after 2 weeks. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Even before that, Anthem from BioWare. Like you need, it's a very certain skill set. You need those live ops chops to do it. But as well, even if you do build a fucking great game, the live service gold rush kind of already has its winners, right? Like you can't just dethrone Fortnite or Roblox. And I mean, there are kind of gains to be made, right? Like, the success of Helldivers 2 at the start of last year. Apex as well. And Marvel Rivals. But again, Helldivers 2 saw more premium success than anything, right? It is a premium game. It sold well, but the retention numbers were super low. And then Marvel Rivals, it saw a sinking ship in Overwatch 2 and, used the strong IP and NetEase's live ops chops to, steal some players away from Overwatch. Like we say, it's a zero-sum game. Revenues just kind of the big live service players will continue to dominate the segment, because of inertia and their live ops and content treadmills, and the budgets there and the expertise you need are just growing and growing. So you just can't break in, right? And like you said, a lot of the premium game studios shifted to live ops, to live service during the pandemic and stuff when money was flowing. And now they're all kind of retreating back to premium, which there is more room for success there, right? If they, in May right now, for example, there's only Doom: The Dark Ages really coming out for AAA. There's the Elden Ring multiplayer game later in the month. But if you release a game at the right time, you can have that, release window to yourself. And yes, the TAM is a lot lower than live service, but if you cater to a niche audience, do something well, you can still sell millions and millions of copies. Again, player obscure, that's what they did, right?
And overall, when you're making free-to-play games for a console, as we talked about, the player time is extremely finite. So that's hard to break through. Then you have the player expectations that on console are much higher than they are on PC or mobile. And the overall approach from these big publishers is that they have to, they're all public companies. They have to inform, they have to do forecasts. The way they market games are very different than you would market a free-to-play game. And when you're operating in this way, a games as a service is all or nothing. That's pretty much it. And that nothing is quite big for these AAA companies because they spend so much time, invest so much big of an investment into first making this free-to-play game, and the team size is so massive because they put in this quality targets and because the way they produce content. So their break-even point is incredibly high, and their payback is very big. And so if they don't see an absolute monster success, fucking hour one, then they pull the plug because they already overspent on it. And it's not like Fortnite came out and it was overnight success. Apex was. That's the poster child of how it could work is Apex. But pretty much everything else takes time to come out. And the way these publishers work also is that they're incredibly secretive with the way they develop a game. It's all these NDAs and everything. Everything has been done with the highest level of security, like you're, making a biological weapon. But but because of that, they are not really testing. And now we're kind of, seeing that this strategy is not working.
Yeah, it's over. I think the live service gold rush, like I said, is done. The winners are there. There'll be a couple more over time that, maybe they'll discover something that's just, I don't know, too awesome for players to pass up on. But I don't think that's an extraction shooter, to be honest. Sorry, Marathon. I'm sure it's a great
not
game
only Marathon,
to play, but Arc as well. Yeah.
What do you think is going to be the future on the GaaS? Is it going to be these developers are going to go half in like they have been before. So they basically sell the game at a little bit of a cheaper price because it's going to be a shorter one. But then it has a free-to-play microtransaction component where you can continue playing, sort of a Helldivers way. Is that the future?
I think, yeah, I think something like that. I think, they like I said, they can't compete with your Fortnites or Call of Duties, so they're gonna look for like niches, like with Helldivers, the co-op niche did really well. We see that across the board, and I think a lot of publishers are gonna go more like the PVE route, so like the PVE VP even, and I think extraction shooters have got that part of it right, but like the gameplay is just so sweaty and so intense that it's not just something you can jump in casually like a battle royale. So I think we're going to see like smaller scale experiments of PvE games or just PvE games that are a different genre. Honestly, extraction shooter is like for your more casual gamers, which is what Roblox and Fortnite and Call of Duty have found success with. They're not just going to be able to jump into an extraction shooter. Like COD had its own extraction shooter in it, and they took it out of the game because people weren't playing it because it's too fucking stressful and annoying. So that kind of said it all to me, really.
Which studio just cut off their development? Was it EA? I think they stopped development of an extraction shooter just recently, fired away a couple of hundred people, which is also insane that they had 200 people working on a game for probably years on end. Only to realize that, there's really no demand for this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, people are realizing, it's such, again, opportunity costs, consulting companies saying, Tarkov is awesome, it's the next battle royale, everybody make one. Everybody made one, and there's been no success.
Success at all.
Zero.
Yeah. Fuck. Okay,
yeah.
Last topic. What's up? Something that I don't know anything about is portables. What's up with that?
Okay, let's talk about the big one first. Switch 2 obviously is going to show, it's showing all the big signs of success. Over 2 million people trying to pre-order it in Japan. I think Nintendo's forecast is 15 million this year, which I think is pretty conservative and is so low because they were like worried about the tariffs, honestly. But yeah, I think the Switch 2, like the Switch in general, has usually just been a success for Nintendo. But I think this time the Switch 2 is going to offer up more of a springboard for like third-party developers to like extend the life cycles of their games as well. It'll give like engagement and revenue boosts for like Cyberpunk, and I think we'll see like GTA on there eventually and things like that. Because even for new games as well, because the Switch 2 even like is a bit of a potato in terms of its like tech, but developers are already building lower fidelity versions of their games for like the Series S, lower end PCs. So I think the Switch 2 could be like a bit of a perfect storm, like offering like an all-in-one third-party development device for premium games anyway. And it can also like support PC games because it has mouse functionality, Xbox games because Xbox wants to put its shit everywhere, even PlayStation games. It's I think it's on track to do really well. It's coming out actually in like 3 weeks, and based on kind of the activity of Nintendo's different development studios, I'm expecting to see like a new 3D Mario that will like coincide with the next Mario movie, a new Pokemon game that's kind of going to launch a little bit after the stuff we've already seen, which is Mario Kart and Donkey Kong. And honestly, these Nintendo IP are like, it still blows my mind, but they're like some of the strongest IP in the world. I think Mario Kart 8 has sold like 75 million fucking copies, which is like over 3.5 billion in revenues for Nintendo. Like you see all the Monopoly go like, like billions in revenue. It's like Nintendo's doing that with a kart racer that has 0 live ops. It's like fucking insane. And they also have like the sequel. They haven't announced it, but it's going to come to Animal Crossing, which also has like 45 million copies sold. And a lot of that is due to like the pandemic, but I think, there is actually a thing called pandemic nostalgia. And I think a new Animal Crossing will like mobilize a lot of those like, underrepresented demographics in games like women and stuff like that who came out for the Switch in the pandemic. So I think we'll see that like on the Switch side, but that portables now mean just more than a Switch, right? Like, I think there's a bit more of a tailwind for portables like across the board. And again, it comes back to the attention economy, which we've just talked about so much on this podcast, but like it's, pivotal for the industry. Like, it's been oversaturated for ages. Nintendo noticed this early, and they released like the hybrid Switch, so you can play at home on your TV and portably. So again, take the screen with you. And kind of like years later, we call them companion devices at Alinea. So like the Steam Deck and portable PCs like followed suit. And like, so they're not like dedicated consoles like they were in the past. Like, the Steam Deck and portable PCs are a companion to somebody's gaming PC. And the Xbox Portable is a companion to like the Xbox console. And the PlayStation Portal, which is like a Wi-Fi tethered device where you can basically just play it at home. The place like basically is like a transmitter for your PS5. That is a companion device to the PlayStation. So like they're basically like ecosystem signal boosts. They're a way to just get more engagement from current players. If somebody's on a train commuting to work, they can bring their Steam Deck to continue their Baldur's Gate playthrough, or when PlayStation releases its portable, which is happening, like as per Bloomberg reporting and maybe some other sources, let's say. Yeah, didn't hear it from me. They're working on that. And yeah, so like, and what's different from the old days, like the PSP, for example, that failed, and the PS Vita. And that's because they were like a separate console, right? That needed their own, games developed for it. So like there was just no content. Nobody was going to make content for like this like smaller device. But with these like new companion devices, they just play the games people are already playing. So it's just kind of like engagement boosters. While they're not going to like grow the user base in any significant way, they will lead to like more spending and more engagement, which is kind of what it's all about. But I've seen a lot of people like overhyping it, saying like, oh yeah, like the Steam Deck's going to add this many million gamers. But like, I don't think that's true. I think it's just going to increase the time the current core gamers play, which will trickle into spending, as it kind of always does.
Yeah, interesting. How about Steam Deck? Like, is that is that the growing the future? Or like, how should we be looking at it?
Yeah, it's growing. Like it's sold like I mean my estimates, I put it at like 4 to 5 million now, so it's nothing.
That's pretty good.
Nothing crazy, but it's still good
For such a clunky and ugly piece of hardware.
Yeah, exactly. But it is a cool
atrocious.
device, right? You can just kind of, it looks like shit, but like it plays well. You can take your games with you. And like Valve's data, like they put out a report a couple of years ago, showed that like Steam Deck owners on average buy like more games, because like you get this device and you just like, buy a bunch of games like you do with any like console, right? Like you have a higher attach rate. And again, it's just about engagement. Because like it's just an extension of the Steam platform, right? Like I don't look at it as a separate like console. So for example, if somebody just had a gaming PC, maybe they'd be playing Steam 20 hours a week. If they have a gaming PC and their Steam Deck, maybe that will increase to 25 hours because they can play while commuting next to their girlfriend on the couch. When their kids watch a fucking Peppa Pig or something, they'll play their Steam Deck on the couch. And the more people play, the more they spend, whether that's premium or, live service. So yeah, I just see them as ecosystem signal boosts that, will add more revenues to the market, but not really players. And I mean, maybe a PlayStation Portable like will add more players. Maybe kids will get that for Christmas. But again, that will come at the expense of Nintendo, I think. But Nintendo has like Mario and all that IP, so maybe not.
Yeah, and can you talk to me about like, because I'm trying to understand. When I go to the store, there's the Steam Deck, that ugly piece of great hardware. There's the Nintendo, and then there's these Legion decks. There's the ROG like devices. Like, what are those?
Oh yeah, so they're basically like Steam Deck competitors. Again, you can just kind of extend your PC library with them. They're mainly Windows right now. So, you can actually play Xbox games, PC Xbox games and Game Pass through some of them. But right now they're a lot less optimized than like the Steam Deck, which uses like Steam OS and like a really like complicated it's called like a Proton layer that kind of makes games just kind of like work on a Steam Deck. But Steam is actually rolling out Steam OS for a lot of different handheld portables as well, companion devices. So even those like the ROG Ally and the Legion Go and all that, which are a little less optimized, a little bit more clunky, honestly, eventually they'll probably be able to run Steam OS and like work with Steam in that way, which of course is fucking awesome for Valve because they just want people on Steam buying games on Steam. So, you know, when they eventually do that, yeah, it will grow. But honestly, I think for all intents and purposes, it's like the main one is going to be the Steam Deck and it's going to be the Switch. The other ones, like maybe they'll break through, and obviously a PlayStation 1 or an Xbox One will serve those audiences and people will buy those, especially PlayStation, right? Like if they bring out a portable PS5 that like plays PS5 games, that will do well, like and will like carve out a niche for itself. But as for like the ROGs and the Legion Goes, like I think they just can't compete with the Steam Deck brand. That was kind of, you know, they've always been like Chinese manufacturers who made it, but the Steam Deck in a lot of ways was like the first mover, right? That was the one that made the splash. And it, you know, it's so connected to Steam, the biggest PC distribution, you know, platform store, that you can't dethrone Steam for the same reason that Epic Games can't with free games, right? And Game Pass PC can't with like, you know, all you can eat for $15 a month. Like Steam, that the brand with Valve PC game, it blows my mind. Like I've never seen people so defensive of a fucking monopoly in my life. It's wild.
Damn. Well, Rhys, we covered a lot of different things. Was there something that we didn't cover out of those 5 topics?
No, I think we covered everything really. Yeah, we've been chatting a lot. We've gone up to the full hour and a half.
Yeah. So for everybody listening, Rhys's LinkedIn profile below in the description, as well as Alinea Analytics, and reach out to me, to Rhys, give us feedback. This was a normal podcast, not the sort of lectures that we tend to have a lot of the times. Just a banter about the current state of HD industry, AA, AAA, PC, console. It was a pleasure having you on, Rhys.
Yeah, it was
you
awesome.
Have a wealth of knowledge and a lot of information. And most importantly, you're not afraid to say what you think. And that's the best part about it all. You're not trying to sell. You're not trying to be, you know, super nice towards everybody. You're just saying what you're seeing. And that's data. And if you get offended by the data, well,
piss off.
just don't. It's
yeah, it is what it is. It's fact, right? Yeah. Exactly. But no, it's been a pleasure, Mishka. Thanks for having me on, letting me just yap on about the HD market and, you know, plug Alinea a little bit. But yeah, if any listeners want a free trial of the Alinea platform, just reach out and via LinkedIn on the link below, or just you know, reach out to me. I'm a nice guy. Mostly.
Yeah, depends who's asking.
Exactly. But no, thanks a lot.
Thanks everybody for listening. Catch you next time.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.